With the sheer number of WordPress plugins out there, it's hard to sometimes find those ones that actually are worth investigating. And today I've got a selection of plugins you've probably never heard of. And if you want to take a look at the previous video I did with this, I'll link that in the description down below so you can check out even more amazing little plugins. So first up, we have Unblota. Now Unblota, as its name would suggest, allows us to tweak the front end, the dashboard and so on of WordPress and just eke out those little bits of improvements and also get rid of those annoying little things that really kind of just get on our nerves. So once you install the plugin, you'll go into your settings, you'll have Unblota, and inside there things are broken down into 3 different sections. Your core for the back end, your core for the front end, and the block editor. And you can go through and you can tweak various different settings. So for example, if you don't want anybody other than administrators to see the update notification when there's a new version of WordPress, check a box. Job done. If you want to do things like remove the code editor so people can't get in and accidentally start messing with code for the theme and or any of the plugins, again, just get rid of it. You can also do things like limit the number of post revisions. These can very quickly add up to huge amounts of database entries. Well, this will allow you to limit it to 5. You can also do things like empty the trash, application passwords, admin email confirmations, all those kinds of things. There's an overlap with some of the other tools you'll probably see out there, things like disabling the XML RPC functionality, but you can, if you want to, just use something like this, and you can tweak everything about it. You've got the core then, so you can remove things like the script and style, the RSD links, your short links, feeds, jQuery migrate, emojis, all little things that'll enhance WordPress itself, remove things that slow it down, and do a lot of other useful little things. And right the way down to the block editor, so if you use Gutenberg and the standard blocks, you can go ahead and you can enable or disable various different options, like the incredibly annoying welcome guide. Well, we can just auto close that. Pretty cool. Once you've made all the changes you want, you simply hit your save changes and all those changes will take effect on your website and make it somewhat less annoying for you and all your users and clients. Now when it comes to adding posts and content to your WordPress website, one of the things you're going to want to do is add a featured image, but sometimes you don't actually have one. So wouldn't it be nice to have a fallback image that is the default if you don't upload something? Well, this next little plugin will do just that. We've got WordPress Default Featured Image plugin, which is enabled inside my setup. And if we go in there, you'll see inside settings, we have a set of options. We'll open those up and you can see it's a very simple little plugin. Do you want to include posts and pages, only for specific categories, and apply category filter for all post types, and then you can set your default thumbnail. So if you don't use featured images on pages, which most of us don't, only posts, just enable that. Do you want to apply this to category to all filters? We'll say yes we do, and then you simply choose the image you want to use. We'll go ahead, add this one of this very nice looking meal, and we'll say set this as my default thumbnail. We'll hit save changes, and then we have that saved. So now whenever we create a post, and if we don't include a thumbnail, this is now the default thumbnail that will be included on every new post. Now as your website grows and your menu structure increases in size, one of the things you're going to find is that there are going to be more requests to the server to get all that information. And more requests mean a slower website, so we need a simple way to handle that, and this next little plugin will do just that. This is called menu caching, and once you go ahead and install it, inside the tools section you'll see menu caching, and there we have a very simple option. Any or all of your menus can be cached, so if you have more than one, you'll have options for each one. In our example, we only have the one. All you need to do is enable it, save the settings, purge the cache just to make sure that you have everything at the most recent version, and this will also purge the cache periodically to make sure that you have up-to-date options for any visitors. But coming over to our website, you can see before we have the cache enabled, we have 55 queries go into the server just by loading the page in. And after the cache is enabled, we now have 50. So we've saved 5 queries, which I know doesn't sound like an awful lot, but imagine if you have tens of thousands of people visiting your site every single day, that is going to build up considerably. And therefore, anything we can do to streamline that along with other options to optimize your website is only ever going to be a good thing. And as you've seen, it is a super simple little plugin and worth testing out for yourself. Now the final one on my list is probably a little bit of a speciality or niche one, but this is something that I use an awful lot. And this is a plugin called CodeMirror Blocks. And as its name would suggest, it allows us to output and display code on our website, but it has a lot more going on with it. If we take a look at an example post on one of my websites, you'll see we have this little code block that's all nicely highlighted. It's CSS. We can go ahead, we can copy it. We can even go full screen if we have a lot of code to make it easier to see what's going on. And there are even more options on top of that. And this is incredibly simple to use. Once you've installed it, you simply go ahead, add the block to your page using Gutenberg, and then we can select it, and we've got a lot of options. So we've got the panel, so we can choose to show it. We can choose the language label, so we can see we can have no label. We can have the file name if we have one, or we can go ahead and use the default language name. And then underneath, we can choose what language we're using. And as you can see, there's an awful lot of different languages in here. So if you have a technical website that has the need for this kind of layout and design, I think it is incredibly useful. You can then go ahead and choose from a load of different designs as well. So you can see we can change the look of this. You can change the color scheme. You can go through a range of different options till you find the one that you like. You can also make this editable on the front end, and you can enable or disable the copy functionality on the front end. And then you just simply go ahead and paste the code that you want in. There are a couple more options in the settings panel. Inside there, you can see you can set your default language from any of the options available. You can set your default theme and choose a range of different options like showing the number lines, highlight the active sections and so on. And you can enable the code panel. There's a bunch of simple options. They're all pretty self-explanatory. They're all outlining what they do. But if you output code on your website, this is a nice, clean and professional looking way of adding it to your website with minimal effort whatsoever. And those are the useful little free plugins that you probably haven't heard of. But as always, I would love to know what plugins you think are a little bit left field. Let me know in the comment section below so I can take a look, and they may feature in a future video. Now, before anybody leaves a comment in the comment section, I'm not suggesting you install all of these plugins on every single website. I'm giving you some options that if there's something in there that you need, you now have something you can try out for yourself and see what you think of it. As always, all applicable links are in the description. My name is Paul C. This is WPTuts, and until next time, take care.